Hello everyone, welcome back to another modding Hotline Miami tutorial. Today we're going to go over the pause menu. Now keep in mind this isn't a complete tutorial on how to make a new pause menu or even completely overhaul the current pause menu or change it to like a very heightened degree. This tutorial is mainly just to fix something that bugs me in particular and will probably bug you too if you end up noticing it or end up modding the game for some time. I'll go ahead and show you what I mean. Basically, I'll explain it in some small detail. The restart button, if you were to play the updated, I'm not sure about the old version, but if you were to go on Steam right now and play the updated version of Hotline Miami 1, you'll notice that you can't activate the puzzle option or the restart option during cutscene events or events that are non-combat levels, basically like the tutorial and the parts where Jacket is in his apartment, and basically just any level that's not a combat level. You can't restart or open the puzzle menu, and in this version of the source code, for some reason though, that's not the case. You can restart the game during the tutorial, you can restart the game during the house sequences, and that's not good because it'll either, right here you can see I actually got a fatal error while I was testing it of the pre-create event, which I didn't even know was a thing for objEffectors, and it caused an error and it crashed my game. And if it doesn't cause an error and crash your game, it'll basically just restart you on like the combat level that you were playing last. So if you're playing Decadence last, it'll restart you there. If you were playing the Metro last, it'll restart you there. If you're playing Hot and Heavy, it'll restart you there. And of course, if you're modding the game and you're making your own custom levels and you have like a custom intro sequence or something, you're not going to want the player to be able to restart via the pause menu because that'll fuck everything up and it'll either crash the game or set them to a random level. So I'll go ahead and run the game real quick so that you can see what I mean. Hopefully it starts up pretty quickly here because I did just compile it, so it shouldn't take a super long time, I hope. Yeah, okay, there we go. Hopefully you can still hear me over the game. I have my mic set to a bit of a quieter setting because I realized a lot of background noise was being picked up the last time I was recording, so, and in pretty much all of my previous recordings for this tutorial series, so hopefully it's better. Hopefully the encoding on OBS is actually picking everything up. I was getting some encoding overloaded warnings the last time I was recording as well, so yeah. Anyways, we'll go ahead and start the game and just go right into the tutorial. And you'll see that if I bring up the pause menu here, as you can see, I can bring up the puzzle, which isn't really a big deal. It doesn't crash the game or anything, but you're not supposed to be able to bring up the puzzle, but that's fine. And you can also restart, which, as you can see, crashes the game. And if I were to go to, like, the Metro, it would either crash the game, or it would put me in Decadence, or it would put me in, like, a random combat level. And, yeah. That's not what we want, so I'm going to go over how to fix that quickly, and it's fairly simple. The first thing that you should realize is that the way the pause screen works is in both objEffector, if we bring that up, and objEffectorHouse, if we bring both of those objects up, you'll see that in the press escape key event of both of these, it puts you in room RM pause. It doesn't create an instance of objEffectors whenever you hit escape. It just puts you in the room RM pause, which has objEffectors in it already. Okay, sorry to just make a jump cut like this and jump in here, but this is probably going to confuse some of you. You'll see that here I'm talking about RM pause, but I accidentally opened RM menu because I had a brain aneurysm. I meant to open RM pause, but even still, everything I'm saying is correct. I just had a moment of, like, I don't even know, I just had like a brain fart or something and opened the wrong room. But as you can see, if you open RM pause, objEffectors is placed inside here, and if you look at the press escape key event, it does change the room to RM pause instead of creating objEffectors. I just opened the wrong room for some reason. So yeah, I just wanted to make that information present, so that nobody gets confused and thinks that I don't know what I'm talking about because I opened the incorrect room. So yeah. And then I think it uses this variable global.lastRoom to display the room you were in last, which will be the combat level, below the RM menu room, or something like that anyways. I don't know that for sure, don't quote me on that, but that's how I'm assuming it works. It would probably be more efficient to just have it create objectPause, but I'm assuming they did it this way for a reason, so we're not going to go over that today. But what you do want to do real quickly is go ahead and in the escape event of both objEffector and objEffectorHouse, go ahead and open up a new line and write global, and you can name this variable whatever you want, but for my case I'm just going to name it global.previousroom equals room. So we're going to do the same here in objEffectorHouse, global.previousroom equals room. Okay? And make sure it's the same name and everything. And once you're done with that, we can go ahead and close out of objEffector. And now we can go ahead and open up objectPause. And this is where the fun begins, so to speak. So we'll start with the create event. If you scroll down here, you'll have all of your options pretty much. This is setting Xbox controls, defining a bunch of variables here. Surfaces, doing stuff with surfaces, drawing, more variables, repeating 16 times, more variables, and yeah. And then here we have our choices. So we have choice 0, which is the resume option, choice 1, which is the puzzle option, choice 2, which is the restart option, and choice 3, which is the quit option. So if you're going to be making a completely original mod that's not like a Redux mod, you're probably going to want to remove this puzzle option, which I'll get to soon. For now, I'm just going to show you how to fix the restart option, and I'll get to removing the puzzle option later after we fix the restart option. So yeah, for now we're just going to leave this, but we do want to go ahead and define a new variable, and we want to call it global.can'tRestart. And we want to set it to false by default. So we're gonna, or you can set it to a numerical value if you want. Just make sure you remember what you want to use for false and what you want to use for true. You could use any number. You could use 7 for false and 8 for true. You could use 0, 1, which is what people normally use. It's up to you. I'm just gonna use false. So yeah. Now that we've done that, we're gonna go into the step event, and I actually have a paste bin here for just this part alone because it can get slightly complicated, and I did add a bunch of notes and things of that nature, but it's pretty much the exact same as your step event code will be, as the original vanilla step event code will be, but there's just like some stuff defined up here and some notes down here about changing the coloring for the restart option and things of that nature. So just go ahead and I'll leave this link in the description. Just go ahead and copy this code and go ahead and Control A, Control V. Okay, and I'll go ahead and walk you through this really quickly. First of all, for some reason there's an underscore in the variable previous room. I think that's because when I was doing this, when I was testing this out, I added an underscore. In our case, you'll want to delete the underscore, or if you change the name of previous room entirely when we defined it in objEffector, make sure you change this to whatever you named your variable. So yeah. And then we have can't restart. So basically, the way this works is, you can go ahead and delete this as well up here if you want to. This is checking for if the previous room is a sequence, a bunch of sequences, and you can set this to any room. And basically the way this will work is, if a certain sequence, like if you're in a certain room, then set can't restart to true. Otherwise, set can't restart to false if the room isn't defined up here. So you can define any room you don't want the player to be able to restart in up here, and it'll make it to where they can't restart, which we'll get to in a second. This won't actually restrict the ability to restart on its own. This is just going to determine whether or not the option will be grayed out, but it won't actually stop you from restarting the game. We'll get to that in a second, but that's basically what this is checking for. It's checking for if the previous room we were in, and we're checking for the previous room because remember, it sets you, whenever you bring up the pause menu, it puts you in RM pause, so we can't just check for the room we're currently in because it'll be RM pause every time, and therefore global.can'tRestart will be set to false every time. So we have to check for the room we were in last. And here I've put RM sequence 1 and RM sequence 1 downstairs, which will work just fine. Again, you can literally put any room that any room you want, any room you don't want the player to be able to restart in. Just make sure you add an OR statement and put global.previousRoom equals and then the room you don't want the player to be able to restart in. So that's basically how this works. So like, say I wanted to add the next couple of sequences, I would add OR global.previousRoom equals RM sequence 2 or global.previousRoom equals RM sequence 2 downstairs. Alright, now that'll make it to where in these new rooms that I've added, I can no longer restart, or the restart option will be grayed out, at least in this case. So I'll briefly go over some of the rest of this code. It's all just the vanilla code, but this is checking for if weight is greater than 0 and then subtracting weight by 1. This is setting global.xbox to 1, so it's just Xbox control stuff. Checking for if check button, which I guess is a built-in function. I'm not exactly sure what that does. It's probably Xbox control stuff because, as you can see, we have a bunch of Xbox. We have an Xbox script here, and global.xbox was set to 1 up here. So yeah, this is all just Xbox stuff pretty much, and then we keep scrolling down. It's checking for if the up key or down key is pressed and performing the W or S key event key presses. This is checking some Steam stuff, probably for achievements, I would assume. So yeah, this is just dealing with surfaces. This is drawing the pause text and setting some colors and setting the variable on to 1 and messing with text stuff for the text pause. This is setting the font, things of that nature. Setting colors, drawing the font menu, and then here we have repeating 3 times. So this is where, oh yeah, and then we're also setting I to 0 and II to 0 for the loop that we're about to do, which is for color and text and things like that. Basically, these I's right here, they sort of work like a for loop, if you know what that is. I went over that in one of my previous videos when I was fixing script go get weapon, but this is going to help us loop through the choice array, because this right here is technically an array. It's an array of choices. So first, because we have 4 options, make sure you change this to 4. I know it starts at 0, but this is technically 4 options, so we want it to repeat 4 times. If we only had 3 options, which we'll get into in a second, where we remove the puzzle option, we would set it to 3. But because we have all 4 options right now, we're just going to leave this as is. So if select equals I, which is going to be one of our choices, repeats equals 6 plus a length dir x. So yeah, it's just this line is dealing with setting repeats to 6 and something to do with the length dir, length direction, and setting it to 5. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not exactly sure how this works, but it's not really important. If on, and then here we're setting if on to 1, if on equals 1. It's messing with fractions and things of that nature. Or a function called frac, and then setting it to a factor and add x. Then we're coming down here and repeating, and this is where we're setting if global.can'tRestart is true and I equals 1, which is the actually in our case we're gonna want to change this to 2 because the restart option is choice 2. So make sure that you scroll down here, and everywhere where you see I equals 1, make sure you set it to 2. for now, because the puzzle option is still here. The reason that was set to 1 is because the puzzle option, I removed the puzzle option when I was doing this. But yeah, basically what this code is doing is it's checking if can't restart is true and if I is equal to 2, which is the restart option, and it's setting the color of the restart option to be grayed out. Otherwise, it'll do the normal coloring, which is a mix of fuchsia and white. And it's doing the same thing here. Otherwise, it'll go back to the normal coloring, which is white and aqua. And it's doing the same thing here again because it's overlaid twice. So yeah, that's basically how all of that works. Now, that's just graying out the option. So if we were to test the game right now, and we were to go in and bring up the pause menu in like a combat level, it would all look normal. And then if we were to bring it up in one of the rooms that we defined in the step event up here, then the restart option would be grayed out. But we would still be able to restart. It would just be a grayed out option. We wouldn't actually, we wouldn't, because we haven't actually restricted the player from restarting yet, which is what we're about to do right now. So the draw event. Most of this is unimportant. Again, this isn't a video on how to completely overhaul the pause menu, at least not yet. That'll probably be something I make down the line. But this is just dealing with drawing like the black bars that come up on the top and bottom of the screen when you hit escape. So yeah, and it's dealing with creating the scan lines and things of that nature, and creating colors and merging colors and things like that. So yeah. What we want to do is we want to go into the global, not lobal, global left pressed event. And right here, we'll also bring up the create event so we can have a reference. Right here, it's if select equals 1, which is choice 1, then it's setting on to 2 and setting state to 1, which is the code for the puzzle option. So we'll leave that as it is for now. Now, if select equals 2, it's going to load a file called restart.dat. Which is basically what restarts you at the beginning of a level. So what we want to do here is we want to go ahead and change this to, so if select equals 2 and global dot can't restart equals true, or sorry, first we'll do false. If select equals 2 and global dot can't restart equals false, then we want to open up a curly bracket and make sure this is on another line, and then close with a curly bracket. And basically what this will do is it'll make it to where nothing happens if can't, or oh wait, sorry, I'm sorry, I fucked up. We do want to set it to true first. I do apologize. My memory is failing me. But yeah, if select is equal to 2 and global dot can't restart is true, then we want nothing to happen. By opening a curly bracket and closing it, this is basically opening up a block that has no code in between it, so it'll do nothing. Right? So yeah. Oh wait, sorry. There we go. So in between here, it'll do nothing, because if we have can't restart set to true and the restart option is selected, we don't want the player to be able to restart if can't restart is set to true. So we just have a bracket that does nothing, so it'll do nothing if restart is pressed. Otherwise, we want to add an else statement here and add another opening curly bracket and then close with a curly bracket. Otherwise, if select is equal to 2 and global dot can't restart is false, then we want the game to load restart.dat. And I think just putting else here is fine, but just to be sure, we can go ahead and define the entire line. It's false. Oh, whoops, I didn't put an equal sign. So yeah. Now this should actually restrict the player from restarting the game. So we'll go ahead and load in and see what that looks like right now. Okay, so now we're in game. let's go ahead and load into Decadence. And if we pause the game, as you can see, everything works as it should. We can bring up the puzzle menu. We can restart and it works just fine. But now if we quit, and if we go to, I guess we could either go to the intro of Metro or no talk, doesn't really matter. As you can see, the restart option is grayed out, and if I click or hit enter or try and restart, nothing happens. And you can't restart no matter what you do. And yeah, it works as it should. Now, we're just going to do one more thing, or a few more things, I suppose. So, now what we want to do is, and this is optional, you can skip this if you want to, but what we're going to do now is we're going to restrict the player from being able to even select the restart option at all in the first place, if global.can't restart is set to true. So, you want to go to the press S and press W key event. So here we have the press S key event. So here it's checking for if select is less than 3, select plus equals 1. And then it's setting select to 0 otherwise. So and this is when the S key is being pressed. So if you go down to the all the way down to the third option using the S key, which is quit, it's adding plus equals 1 to select, and if it's less than 3, and if it's not, then it's going to set you back to 0 so that you can't go past 3, so there won't be like an invisible option basically. And here we're checking for if select equals 1, which is the puzzle option, and test equals 1, then select equals 2. And I believe this has to do with restricting the puzzle option if test is set to 1. But what we're going to do in this case is restrict the restart option. So if select equals 2 and global.can't restart is set to true, select should equal 3, which is the quit option. So if you're using S to go downwards and you're going to the restart option, if global.can't restart is set to true, it's going to skip the restart option and push you straight to the quit option. And now we want to do that with the W key. And the W key is the exact same as the S key, except it's going upwards, so it's checking for if select is greater than 0 and then subtracting and setting it to 3. And it's doing the same thing here with the puzzle option. And here we just want to do the same thing. Pretty much if select equals 2 and global.can't restart is set to true, then select should equal 1. Alright, so we'll go ahead and test that out quickly. I'll go ahead and run the game again. Alright, we're back. Now we'll go ahead and test out the pause menu on a regular combat level, as always. As you can see, everything works as it should. We can bring up the puzzle, we can restart, and it works just fine. Now we'll quit out, and we'll go to the start of no talk this time, because why not? And you'll see that if I hit escape, the restart button is grayed out, and I can't even hover over it. So yeah, I can quit. That works just fine. I can resume. I can bring up the puzzle, and yeah. So now that that is done, we're going to get into how to remove the puzzle option if you want to remove that option. So it's a fairly straightforward process. First, open objEffectorPause and go into the, sorry, not the step event, go into the create event, and just go ahead and erase it. Just delete the line. Now, hypothetically, I think you could just leave this as 0, 2, and 3, Even if you did, we would still have to change some things, but we'll just go ahead and correct it. We'll just go 0, 1, 2 just in case. I'm not sure if you could leave it as 0, 2, 3, but because I haven't checked, we're not going to do that. Just make sure you switch it to 0, 1, and 2. So now the resume option is the exact same. The restart option is 1, and the quit option is turned into 2. So now that we've changed that, we want to go in here. And the first thing we want to do is we want to scroll down until we find repeat, and we want to change this to 3 because now we only have 3 options. So because if we leave it as 4, then it'll give us an error because there's not 4 options anymore, there's only 3. So once we've done that, we want to make sure we change I to 1 in all of these cases instead of 2, because before the restart option was 2, but now it's 1, so we want to make sure this is all correct. Okay. Now that we've done that, we want to come into the global left pressed event, and we want to change this up. If select equals 1, we want to go ahead and comment this out. Since this is the code for the puzzle option, we want to go ahead and comment it out, or you can just remove it entirely. It's up to you. And we want to set if select is equal to 1 instead of if select is equal to 2, because again, our restart option is 1 now. And we want to make sure we set this to 2 because this is the quit option, and the quit option is now 2 and the restart option is now 1. So once we've done that, then we want to go ahead and come over to the S and W keys respectively, and we want to set this to 2 and set this to 1 and set this to 2 respectively. And go ahead and leave this as 0 but set this to 2, and change this to 1 and set this to 0, I believe is how we're going to do it, because yeah, this is going upwards, right, if we're using the W key. So we would skip over the restart option and go to resume, and for the S key, since we're going downwards, we would skip over the restart option and go to quit. And yeah, so now we'll go ahead and test the game real quick, and everything should run just fine. Alright everyone, we're back. I'm still getting encoding overloaded errors, so hopefully that stops. I'm going to try and record this again. So we're going to go straight to Decadence. Okay. And as you can see, we only have 3 options, and it works just fine. We can restart, and everything works as it should. Right? So now if we quit, we go to chapters, go to a level that we have listed that we don't want to be able to restart on, and as you can see, it skips straight past the restart option, whether we go up or down, and we can't select it, and the puzzle option is gone, as it should be. So that is pretty much that. That's going to be the end of this tutorial. Thank you all for watching. If you have any requests, comments, concerns, or questions, leave them below in the comment section, and I will get back to you. And yeah, thank you for watching, and happy modding.